Let's talk about the relationship and the expectations. I've been in the other scenario. I've been a landowner putting my land into a partnership with other developers. Initially, you want to know where you stand. So it's important for us to initially put a contract in place that everybody understands and agrees with, and that everybody's bound to legally. Before we do anything, we negotiate the terms. So initially we will say, okay, you bring a piece of land to us, let's say we like it, we've taken a bit of time and done a due diligence on it and said we like the piece of land, and we can agree on a value of that land and a deal. So we'll put a deal terms together, a term sheet, which is anything from 1 to 4 pages that spells out, the fundamentals of the deal. And that is a binding term sheet that both parties sign. Now, depending on the type of partnership and the intricacies, we can then go from that term sheet, can go to a fully fledged shareholders agreement, joint venture agreement, whatever you might call it, depending on how it's legally structured. And that then encompasses and regulates the relationship between the parties. It says what we are responsible for, what you are responsible for, that as a landowner, what the vision is, what the priorities are, how we will deal with things when it goes well, but also how we will deal with things if it goes wrong. And sometimes things go wrong. There's a economic collapse, there's a change in the market, or the partners want their money out sooner, or there's some personal problem and people need to exit. So it deals with disputes and deals with various scenarios as best as it can. And then from there on, we take the project over and we agree that we will report back, and that'll be in the contract. We will report back at a regular basis. If a piece of land is something which it's still going to take 5 years to get the rights and zoning in place, there's no need in reporting back weekly or even monthly, because things take long. There's bureaucratic processes that take very long, but we will agree to a reporting standard. Let's say on average a monthly reporting feedback on developments where we are actively developing something. It can be less depending on where we are in the development, and more of a monthly or quarterly feedback on things that are still longer off, where we're still not going to be breaking ground anytime soon. It's still in a rezoning process. And we'll explain exactly the process from the start. We'll say if it's a rezoning or a township establishment process, this is what we're going to do. And unfortunately, in those processes, we drive them as hard as we can, but we are at the mercy of a lot of government organizations. So, we might say this will take us 12 months to do, and the government throws a curveball, or the municipality throws a curveball our way, and it takes 2 years. But we will communicate up front and say, guys, there's a problem, and this and this and this. And we cater for that in the agreement. And then it's about regular feedback to the parties, and it's about open, fair and transparent communication. If there's a problem, and that's what we encourage always. I always say to partners of ours, if there's a problem, please talk to us. Don't go quiet, because then there is a misalignment in what the parties do or want to do or how they want to do things. So we are trying to avoid litigation and legal expenses and things. It just becomes messy, and the courts take long. It's not in anybody's interest except in the attorney that's representing the parties. They make a lot of money out of it. And most things can be sorted out if you have partners that are rational, that are open and upfront. You can understand things. Things do change. You'll have an example where people have put their land in, but now one of the shareholders passed away, or the landowners passed away, or their economic circumstances have changed. And we're happy then to talk to them to say, well, okay, they've got a different thing. They can't wait so long. We need to make a plan. We need to do something, buy them out or do something. As long as people are open and upfront with their communication, we will be open and upfront, obviously, always. Then it's easy to do a long-term partnership. And these are long-term partnerships. Nothing happens overnight. If we take a piece of land today that is ready and shovel ready, we still have to go and do the deal with you as a landowner. So negotiate the deal, do our due diligence, understand what we put on paper we can actually deliver on. So that takes probably a month, depending on how quickly it moves between the parties. Agreements are negotiated and signed. But that takes about a month or more. It can take up to 6 months, depending on the parties. We can do it quickly, but a lot of the time the delay is on the landowner's side. There's a lot of questions and a lot of things, which is fine. We're happy to do that and to answer that. We're not in a rush. Then we've got an agreement. Now we've got to start planning the development. So we've got to get the professional team on board. And this is assuming everything is already in place. We just have to design, cost, raise the finance, and construct. And that takes a minimum of 6 months before you break ground. And on average, a development that is shovel ready, it is not too big. I'm not talking here about a thing of 1,000 plus units. Your average development, if it's 100 units, 10 big units, very luxury houses, whatever it might be, it's about an 18-month construction period, on average. We do it faster, but I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. So you've got 18 months plus 6 months, so you've got about a 24-month period at minimum. That changes and that extends once you get bigger developments. So if you're doing a big development, let's say you've got 100 hectares of land and you're going to do 5,000 houses on that development, you can't go and build 5,000 houses one shot. The market's not big enough necessarily in most instances, and that will kill the development. You can't go and lend money. The banks also won't give you money to go and build 5,000 houses at once unless there's some crazy anomaly. So you typically phase the development. So you say, okay, year 1 we will do 500, year 2 700, year 3, 1,000, and then you try and scale it up. So that's a long-term project. But we be upfront with the owners of how it works and how the cash flow should work. And then we execute it. So it can be 24 months, let's say the fastest, and it can be a lot longer to complete the development. Now that's not saying that the landowner has to stay in that long. When we have a position where we are able to break ground, so at minimum after 6 months, or if we are 1 year into the construction, we typically can at that stage pay the landowner out a large percentage or a certain percentage of the land value or the whole land value. Although we try and once again limit how much money we have to take out of a project. We can only get money out of the project once it's completed. But there are instances where we can give the landowner an accelerated payment on the land, but we don't pay for land up front on day one unless it's really, really cheap. And I really dislike giving people offers when they say, I want you to pay me for my land right now, and I make an offer for them which is very low compared to what they think their land is worth. And I don't want to offend people, but I've got to do what's fair and what I can do in our company and what we can do to take on that extra risk and that time, because time is money. If I have to put money in now, it's got a big impact on my company and our cash flow. So then the offer is a lot lower. So it's very rare that we do that. But if landowners are willing to wait a few months, we can do a much better deal and they can extract a lot more value out of their land. And that's kind of how it works.